Hello everyone, welcome to my channel where we are focusing currently on doing watercolor pencil tutorials. We also use other mediums, and today I'll be painting on that flower pot sketch I showed on my recent Instagram posts. If you want to see what we'll be painting later on the week, if you have any suggestions, feel free to comment down below this video or follow me on Instagram. And I've started by taping down the paper so everything stays flat while I paint, and using a normal graphite pencil. I could have also used a watercolor pencil for this. I'm just laying down my very basic sketch. I've added a wall to the left side and then a very simple, very basic flower pot sketch, and I started coloring in with light yellow from the top right corner, which is where our light is going to be coming in from, and I continue applying it till I reach midpoint, and I switch to wherever is my darker shade within my pencil set. And I continue applying using these diagonal motions so I get that idea of the light hitting exactly from the corner I want it to be, kind of like when you have a weak light bulb in your house and you can sort of see the gradient on the wall. That's what I'm going for right now. And I transition to yellow ochre to do the remaining top side and also a bit of the bottom, and finish it all off with my darkest brown, which I believe is a walnut brown color. I use it for the bottom area of the pot, and I'm also going to use it later on to give some shadows. To be more precise, I had a piece of tape on the wall as to protect it from adding color, and I blend again from the top right towards the bottom left using diagonal motions. I'm using a barely damp watercolor brush because these are easier for me to use. That way I don't have to use a water jar, but you can obviously use a normal watercolor brush with a normal wooden barrel, a wooden handle. And I'm just going over. It doesn't matter if I color over the pot, then I just go with a tissue and clean up any excess color that may have gotten there. I had a bit of leakage on the wall, so I just clean it up with a piece of tissue, and once everything has dried, I apply my lightest green, a grass green or an apple green, where my foliage is going to be. I'm just using very random strokes and scribbles, absolutely nothing precise here. Then I switch to a olive green, a mid-tone of green, and use it a bit on the middle section as to get a bit more shadows there. And lastly, I finish it off with my darkest green, a pine green, and I give just very slight shadows on the bottom side of the branches and the center of the flower pot. Then I mix everything in with my watercolor brush. I'm starting from light to dark, and I'm using tapping motions instead of just left to right strokes. This way it looks more textured, it looks more random, and it just gives an overall better idea of foliage. I'm just tapping randomly across the flower pot, the lighter and the darker areas, and letting the water do its own thing. And to pull everything together, I rub the brush against some of the greens and then I splatter them over the background, because if I don't add splatters, well, it won't be one of my paintings unless I make a complete mess out of my desk in my room. Once dry, I sketch in some random round shapes using pink tones inside the actual plant and also on the edges, on the tips. For some, I go behind them with a bit of violet to give some shadows, and for others I just use some red to give also different nuances, different hues to the flowers within the pot. And I'm using the darker colors with a very random small strokes just to give a slight idea of petals, and I tap over them with the brush, not as to blend it, but once you add water to them, it just makes them way more vibrant and way more strong, which is what I'm trying to go for with this painting. And I actually struggled a lot. I didn't know where to post this or not, and then I made a YouTube poll and the Instagram post. I really didn't want to because I tend to stray away from realism as much as possible, also for personal reasons. But I was very happy with all of the feedback I was getting, so I decided I would post this, and I'm just right now adding a bit more of these splatters using the red and the pink, just to give the idea of flower buds and random petals flying around. Then using my darker brown, my walnut brown, I color in the actual flower pot and go around the edges and also around the leaves with it, and then apply quite of a thick layer, focusing it mostly on the bottom left. And I'm going to leave actually a bit of a highlight towards the right side, which is where our light is hitting from, but not directly under the actual leaves, because I want them to be casting a bit of a shadow, if that makes any sense. And again, I'm using a tapping motion to blend most of it so it does not look too streaky. I want this to have just a slight amount of texture, maybe if it's ceramic or something, but still look pretty put together. Then using the violet from the flowers, I add some vertical lines on the actual wall, and I add some more using brown, especially towards the bottom side where the actual flower pot is casting its shadow against the wall. And I blend it using vertical motions with my brush, and it doesn't really matter if it ends up being streaky, at least to me, because it's just going to go and complement this style even more, at least in my opinion. I try to leave it as light as possible towards the top and as dark as possible towards the bottom. And I go over again with a bit more of violet and brown, especially on the left side of the actual pot, as to cast a stronger shadow. I gently, with a very slightly damp brush, try to blend it out. I also go a bit in between of the leaves on the left to make also the wall parts that are showing through a slight bit darker. Lastly, using just the brown, I add the strings or the chains, basically the ropes they're holding on this flower pot suspended, and I also try to make the lines not perfectly straight. Maybe there's a flower showing through that's over it or something. And I also add bits of pieces within the actual bushy part, as to give a little idea that's actually connected to the pot area. I add some finishing touches to the wall part, as I was not perfectly happy with it, but oh well, we can't make everything perfect, and we're not even remotely trying to. Then I add a last layer of splatters across it, since the previous ones had faded a bit too bright for my liking. I focus it mostly over the green area where our leaves are, and less strong on the yellow part of the background wall. Using the dark green, I add some final shadows to the bottom branches or leaves, I'm not sure what they are, and also to the ones on the left. They're not directly being hit by the sunlight. The same goes for the flowers. I just go under them with a bit of red to add the final shadows. And that is it. Finally, I'm signing and just proceed to take off the tape in the opposite direction to avoid the paper tearing. Thank you all for watching, and we'll see each other in the next video.